YouTube for our members who don't get to attend them. And I take that opportunity to be able to share it and have everybody experience it, even if they can't exactly be here. At this time, I am going to give over the floor to Andrea and Amber so they can start the recording that they are going to be sharing. And then after that, I will start the slides. It's all you.
Okay, well, good afternoon now, everyone. My name is Amber. I am a community health worker with Walmart Health, and I have been asked to do a presentation on reentry, barriers to reentry. So Andrea is going to start us off with a little video, and then we'll get it rolling. Go ahead, Andrea. Or Anna. Well, who are you today?
It's so easy to place people in boxes, drawing lines, creating sides. There's us, and there's them. Those we feel comfortable around, and those we don't. There are those of us with many chapters, and those just starting their own stories. There's the well-to-do, and those doing what they can. There are those we share something with, and those we don't seem to share anything with.
Welcome, and thank you for coming today, guys. Today I'm going to be conducting an experiment where I'll ask you a series of questions. Now, these questions will be very personal questions, and for us to get a true result, I need you to be completely honest with how you respond. The first question I have is, who in here was the class clown? Who is never on time?
And then there's us, we who have tattoos. We who feel lonely. We who have been bullied. We who have bullied others. We who are madly in love. We who have overcome great adversity. And there's the lucky ones, whose team won the championship this year. We who beat cancer. And then there's all of us who are created in the image of God. And as one body, we stand together, united as one, under His grace.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. Anybody have any thoughts on that video?
Yeah, I like to actually just say that I think that was a good way to open, because I feel like what happens in the world that we live in and the communities that we work within, there's a lot of discrimination and a lot of segregation from different social economic status, as well as many other factors. And so I like how that kind of said, look, you could be in from one box or another and you still share those same experiences. So thank you for doing that.
You're welcome. Great. Thanks. Anybody else? Okay, so again, my name is Amber, and this reentry is pretty much near and dear to me. What makes me qualified? I have a Bachelor of Business, a Bachelor of Business degree, and a Master's of Public Administration degree. I'm currently a CHW for Walmart Health. What you may not know is that I'm a mother, a grandmother, a victim of domestic violence, a mentor, and an advocate. I do a lot of speaking in shelters, domestic violence, safe houses, schools, Department of Juvenile Justice, and adult prison system on gangs. I mentor women coming out of incarceration, connecting them to immediate services and family reunification. My husband was murdered in 2019. My 18-year-old son was murdered in 2021. But I am a convicted felon, which is now known as a returning citizen. I've been out since 2008. And so my life experiences are what have become my passion to drive change in the communities in which we live. So next, where's it? Rebecca. Okay, that's who I am. This is me. So I like to my I am a CHW campaign is I'm an advocate, a storyteller and advocate. I take people's stories and create communities that enable us to see through the eyes of other people, open us to the claims of others. So everybody's story is different. Again, that video shows that there are a lot of barriers, a lot of prejudgment, but on the end, at any given point in time, any one of us could be in any one of those boxes. So I've made it my drive to open the eyes to others and let them see the other side. And so this is everybody's way of doing things is different. For me here, some of these things that I do that we're going to talk about, I have thinking outside of the box and what CHWs can do to help people coming out of incarceration. I live in Georgia, so the state of Georgia is the second hardest state to re-enter back into society. They do 99-year background checks on everything. And so we've gone through a lot of different things. But we're going to do a little icebreaker right quick. Anyone want to introduce themselves and share any experience, positive or negative, or how you have interacted with someone or assisted someone who has recently been released from incarceration? Has anybody else worked with people in incarceration?
Well, I can talk.
Okay.
Okay. Hi, everybody. I am Cameron Newton. I am a social worker, community health worker. I'm also located in Georgia, like Amber. And I've helped several incarcerated who recently was released to get rights to their children. So that's something I do free of charge. I help them file legitimized paperwork so they can have rights to their children, be able to have visitation rights, and allow them to have say about what goes on in their children's life. So I do a lot of education on that topic, because a lot of young men, even older men, don't know that they really don't have any right to their children unless they were married or they have to go through the court and get legitimized. So I help a lot of young men get those rights so they can be a positive role model in their children's life. And that actually helps with recidivism. when they feel like they have a meaning to be in society. Children is a big help with that. So that's it. That's all I have.
Andrea,
Awesome.
do you want to go next? Andrea, did you have something to say?
She might have stepped away. Sheila?
Yeah, my name is Sheila Rickman. I work in Flint, Michigan. I'm a survivor of domestic violence, and I've been in recovery for 29 years. Um, Here at the health center, the community health center that I work for, we participate in called a Vivitrol program at the jail. So people that aren't incarcerated, when they come to get out, prior to them getting out, they do an orientation with us and get information about our health coaches and such. And then they get a Vivitrol injection. And then once they're released, one of our health coaches reaches out to them to let them know that they're not alone in their recovery, to try to make those connections so that they have somebody that they can reach out to when they first come out and through their program. Also through the health center and GHS, we have a CIT and Ignite program. The CIT program helps train police officers on mental illness and how to deal with repeat offenders. And the Ignite program goes into the jail and works directly with the inmates to help them to try to reduce the recidivism. So that's what we do here. And I do a lot of
Awesome.
community events and trying to reach out to people to let people know, that we're together in this, it's nothing political, it's nothing. We're a community. We have to work together to watch out for each other and help each other.
All right, awesome. Okay, Andrew?
Yeah, so I just wanted to say that you all probably know me, or most of you do, but I'm Andrea Kretzer-Burton with Everyday Life. I too am a survivor of domestic violence of 13 years, and I haven't necessarily been a part of the prison system in any way, except for helping some of the clients that I have get connected to the vital resources that they need so that they can live a more productive, healthier life based on their past experiences with the prison system. Thank you.
Anybody else like to share? Okay, next slide. So here's some of the statistics, national statistics. Nearly 6.9 million people are currently on probation, in jail, in prison, or on parole, according to the U.S. Department of Justice. As of January 2023, 1.68 million are incarcerated. On any given day, nearly 60,000 youth under the age of 18 are incarcerated in juvenile jails and prisons in the United States, and more than 650,000 individuals are released from state and federal prisons on an annual basis. That's a lot of people. That's a lot of people. A lot of people that are really going to need help based upon the different laws. So go ahead, you can go to the next slide. So what is the importance of a CHW regarding the role of transitioning back? So CHWs commonly come from the communities in which they live. Most people coming out of incarceration return to where they committed their crimes. CHWs usually have, lived experiences that support their efforts to being a frontline worker and advocate. For myself, my approach was basically through the experiences that I had, experiences that others had in the prison system as well. I did 6.5 years, and you learn a lot. Let's just say you learn a lot. And a lot of women are there. A lot of women are there for taking a charge for someone, for being a habitual repeat offender, and just for really not knowing their rights. So one of the things that I have done, done is gone into the prison system and linked the women in particularly coming out of incarceration to all the services they need, so they don't have to come out to a halfway house. They come out to their own apartment, their own job, and things like that. We'll talk about that a little bit more later. The CHWs are capable of bridging the gap and connecting clients to various services. Transitioning back into society is very stressful, medically dangerous, socially overwhelming, and fragile. CHWs serve as informal counseling and social support. So inside the prison system, you are given a counselor. Even in the state jail system, you are given like a liaison to the outside world. But 9 times out of 10, they're just there to get a check, and they really, really don't help you. So as CHWs, we can educate among the huge divide between the returning citizens and organizations that try to assist. So when they come out, for example, like employment, here in Georgia, I worked with an organization that had got the ban the box passed, where the question, have you ever been convicted of a felony or a crime, taken off of employment applications? So I think our county government and some other local entities have taken that question off to give that person an opportunity at least to interview, because they could be well qualified. And then there's a lot of mistrust in the system. So CHWs serve as a mentor and trustworthy ally. Does anybody have anything they'd like to share about the importance of a CHW in this? Okay.
I
Go ahead. No, go ahead, Andrew.
Well, I don't want to bring up COVID, too much, but during the pandemic, when it was a lockdown, I actually was working, of course, actively in the field as a CHW at the time, through the RCHWN. And one of the clients that had called in to seek help was an individual who was released from prison and had some felonies. And because it was a lockdown moment where you had to, stay isolated and what have you, he was homeless. And due to his felonies, he didn't qualify in the community for housing and other services. Because that was like one of the main questions that was a barrier for him. And so I was able to do some research, and it was really great to know that the Michigan Works here in our community has a former offenders program where they were actually able to connect him to different resources, getting him a job, getting him some long-term stable housing based on some of the resources and the different connections that they had. So I thought that was a really great thing to learn for that time.
Great. Thank you, Andrea. Anyone else want to share? Okay, next slide. All right, so there are a multitude barriers to reentry, but these are really some of the big ones that face people coming out of incarceration. And again, every state is different depending on how acceptance that state is with people coming out, right? So some of the barriers that we're going to talk about are mental health, housing, employment, the lack of resources, substance abuse, structural racism, financial obligations to the system. Like if you're on probation and parole, how are we going to pay them if we can't get a job, right? So, all right, next slide. All right, next slide. Yeah, there you go. Mental health. So during incarceration, even at the local state jail, many inmates experience trauma, depression, anxiety, PTSD, and even suicidal thoughts. So we're going to talk about these more in detail. So each of these, let's just say 9 out of 10 times when a person go in, they have already experienced some type of trauma, which is the reason why really it's one of the foundations as to why they've committed a crime. They could have been in a domestic violence situation and made some quick decisions off of emotion. They could be the youth. If the mama, or it's usually a single family home, if the mama has experienced some kind of trauma, and the kid feels like he has to go out. And I met a young man one time, felt like he had to go out and sell drugs on the corner, just in order to help pay the bills, because mama is all depressed, and she had gone through this domestic violence incident. Now she's left all alone with 5 kids, and it's just a whole lot of things going into play. And it's just like a generational rollover. And so mental health is a big one, because now the kid feels like they have to put on the role of the daddy and take care of the household. And they help take with the other kids. And it's usually the youngest kid in the household. So mental health is a big one. Anyone want to share about mental health and anything they've experienced? I guess she's moving us to housing. Rebecca, you moving us on to housing? Okay, you good? As far as housing, there are various housing opportunities, but having a criminal record can eliminate you from approval. Most people are, if you're in the prison system, some prisons require some states require you to have a home plan. If you don't have a home plan, then you're not going to be released. So some options are halfway houses. There are some shelters that have programs just for people coming out of incarceration. People, returning citizens, leave the prison system or jail system and return to family members' homes. Apartments, tiny homes, and houses are also an option. If and only if there's a program, right? So you might get denied if you walk in off the street, but if there is a housing program specifically for those returning citizens, you might be able to get into that apartment complex through that program. Shared living, rooming houses, transitional housing. If you are in the prison system, going back to the mental health, and you are diagnosed as PTSD or anxiety, depression, something that you might qualify for, especially for a long period of time. Those that spend like 15 years or longer can apply for disability, trauma-informed disability, for being in the prison system for so long, because it is a rough environment, especially on the men's side. And once there's different housing programs, if you receive SSDI, a permanent supportive housing and tenant-based rental assisting. So the permanent supportive housing usually pays here, and there are different programs. Maybe it could be 85 to 100% of someone's rate, and tenant-based rental assistance program is based really out of your income. You only pay a portion of that. So there are very different types of housing. You just have to think outside of the box. Some family members won't accept people coming out of incarceration, because if they're on Section 8, they have to clear it through their caseworker, and that means everybody's in their business, and the apartment complex might not take it, or housing or whatever. It's a lot of different factors play. So you just really have to get the history as to what's going on, depends upon what type of charges that they have. For me, it was very difficult for me because I moved from a whole nother state to Georgia. So, and I was starting off brand new, but because I wasn't on probation and parole, I went to the Salvation Army. I had to leave at 7 a.m. That means I'm out here walking the street, not knowing anything or anyone. And I ended up living in burnout and abandoned buildings, and I took on a construction weatherization program at a local college. And I got there early in the morning enough to where I met with the maintenance man, and I showered in the gym. No one ever knew. And I became licensed in lead, asbestos, mold, and hazardous materials. One of my first jobs down at Fort Benning, I was the only female on the crew, so I had my own room. And so I was able to save up all of my money. And I came back and stayed in a rooming house until I was able to get enough money and because I was going back and forth. But when I knew I was going to be stabilized in the Atlanta area for good after that job assignment ended. I went on to I got my own apartment and moved on from there. But you just got to think outside the box. But there are on the return, there's federal money in housing programs too. For example, when we advocate with a landlord, if they have an apartment, let's say they have a you pay, they have an apartment that's got 2 rooms. The federal government pays $600+ for one person to be housed, for one returning citizen to be housed in a unit. So if you have a 2-bedroom and you can do bunk beds like a roommate style, and you put 4 people in there, if that normally rents for $1,000, you're now looking at $1,200 per room, which is $2,400 a month for 4 people. So the landlord's going to profit $1,400. And that's really what the landlord is looking at money these days, right? But anybody have any input on the housing? Any suggestions? Any thinking how else we can think outside the box? No. Andrew, you have anything to add? No.
I'm just curious,
Well,
Amber, how do you, where do you go to find like the applications for the government assistance for the housing for people looking to re-entry?
So one thing that I have done is I've connected with the counselors at the prison. There is an agency here in Georgia. You got there's an agency in every state somewhere for returning citizens to connect with, right? Your probation and parole officer all have housing options for the people on their caseload. For me, I just connected with different agencies that dealt with the criminal justice system. So for the permanent supportive housing and the tenant-based rental assistance programs, those programs are basically if you have some type of diagnosed disability. Okay, so it's very important if you get SSI or SSDI, you're eligible for those, even if you have a criminal background. Depending upon what it is now. I mean, they don't do like, I think violent crimes and sex crimes, but they, and crimes against children. But those entities, you would have to link up, like here in Atlanta, there's an agency like I don't know, Cameron knows Hope Atlanta. They have connections to all those. So if you have HIV and AIDS, if you're incarcerated, the Mission downtown has, usually the homeless shelters, they have some type of a program for people coming out of incarceration. And people are like, oh, I don't want to live in a shelter. But really, a shelter is a good opportunity. Any Salvation Army has case managers that they assist you with the housing period. So they're trying to move you from homelessness into a sustainable unit. So, and they're supposed to work with you with getting employment and your housing options. So I know here in Georgia, and again, every state is different. If you go into the shelter part, we'll say Salvation Army. Salvation Army is going to do a homeless assessment on you. And then they are linked with a state agency that says, okay, we have rooms in X, Y, and Z, or this is what the type of units we have available. We have here in Georgia, there is an agency that is the link between the housing and multiple barriers. So if you have credit issues, background issues, you've been evicted a bunch of times, rental history issues, whatever issues you have, they serve as a liaison and say, hey, you know what? We can, we'll vouch for this person because they came through our program. They're referred by us. So that case manager sends that referral to that agency. That agency says, hey, if anything happens with this tenant, we'll guarantee you that, and you have to evict them, we'll guarantee that we will pay 3 months of rent and help you get that apartment turned around so you're not losing anything. So you just have to find out what your resources are in your community. And if they're going for the PSH or the TBRA, then that case manager is going to help get them linked to the government entity so they can get that SSI, because SSI and SSDI. A lot of people don't know, like, you do multiple years in the prison system, that because of the trauma that's in there, like, there's crazy stuff that is just overlooked by guards. I mean, we hear about a lot of the stuff on the street and these guns and these kids and everything, but there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind closed doors that people are turning a blind eye to. And, with these gangs and territorial things on the inside, it's very, very traumatic, to hear stories of, beatings and retaliations and rapes and all kind of stuff. It's very difficult behind bars. And people even remember that. I met a man who's did 25 years for possession of 4 crack rocks, and he got 25 years day for day. And somebody else, another person who had a similar case, only got 4 years, and 3 of those were on probation. He had to do 1 year and the rest were on probation. So, and it was really based on race, and we'll talk about it later. So yes, you just have to find the resources, who's connected. My suggestion would be, when you come out, you need to connect with anybody, even before you come out, anybody and everybody who is connected, that you know that you're going to need. You know your situation when you come out. If you've talked to your people say, hey, you can come home to me, then your housing is pretty much taken care of. Where are you going to work? You fill out applications from behind them walls. You doing resumes, and we'll talk about that on the employment side. But for the housing, and at PSH, depending upon your diagnosis, get your medical records. Make sure they get their medical records when they leave, and you can always get those. Yeah, and so it really helps. But there are agencies out here. You just have to find. We have a Georgia Justice Project here that does a lot of that.
Thank you.
Oh, Andrea got a hand up. Yes, Andrea.
Well, I just wanted to say that I've been attending the Michigan SDOH Summit, and today I had the opportunity to attend one of the sessions. So for us Michiganders that are on the call, Michigan is actually working diligently to put together their good housing, good health plan. And what it is it's going to be the Michigan's first statewide housing plan. And that's going to help with individuals in that are reentry. They're actually a part of that plan, and creating stable, viable housing for all kinds of different individuals throughout the state. But that's going to be launching in February. So I just thought I'd share that with the folks on the call.
Oh, great. So here in Georgia, I've had some conversations from prior agencies that I work with that have housing programs. And you just meeting with them and saying, hey, there's a lot of money in reentry for youth, for for adults. Would you consider working with us to present, working with me to present a housing program with a landlord, and see how to push that. So they get paid X, Y, and Z. We did the breakdown on the money. There's a lot of money there, so it's a win-win for everybody. That's a win-win. Okay, we go to employment. So ban the box. I briefly talked about earlier, eliminated questions from employment applications. Have you ever been convicted of a felony or a crime? Because that automatically, getting rid of that will allow that person returning an opportunity to where they may be skilled. When you're behind those walls, you have to go to school. You can't just be laying around. You have to do something. So eliminating that was a huge barrier. Resumes, helping them create a resume while you're incarcerated. Like I said, you have to work. So I encourage those individuals, put that work experience that you worked at the prison on that resume. They don't have to know you stayed there. They just have, just know that they don't have to know you stayed there. They just got to know you worked, right? And so, even if you went to school while you were in there, And they have dual enrollment programs and all that, just the name of the school and where it's located. And work with those counselors. Again, you probably do more for that individual than that counselor. And so, like for me, I can't work for the prison system. I tried, but they call me. I am on the I am mentoring support team where I do go into the prisons and mentor. But you know, we have to push. We have to push the, hey, you know what? Who best to help those not return, or those who actually live through that experience. So I encourage everyone, include the work experience in there, because now it opens up a whole other can of worms. We have to have that conversation. You know, why is this gap? You don't have to have a gap. Just put it in there. They ain't got to know you stay there. Then the federal bonding letter. So the federal bonding letter covers I don't know if everybody knows about this. It covers the first 6 months of employment, and it protects the employers against money or property loss due to employee dishonesty at no cost to the employer. So once you get out, everybody encourages you to get this federal bonding letter. I'm just going to be transparent. A lot of people don't know what it is, and it's only as good as the paper it's typed up on. So we have to teach those coming out of incarceration the importance of advocating for them on that note. Because what that means is, I am a convicted felon, right? So when I get out, I say, hey, I got this federal bonding letter. I encourage you to hire me because, you know, even though I have a barrier against me, this is my insurance policy to say to that employer, you can trust me, because I'm also going to be backed up in insurance. So you're covered. So that means if anybody steals anything, or if say I went for shoplifting, if I steal something, obviously I'm going to be fired, but the federal bonding letter is saying, hey, you know what? I'll replace it. If, you know, it's an insurance policy all the way around. A lot of people say have it, but a lot of people just really don't understand using it, because people don't understand it. And a lot of employers don't even look into it. And then you get the tax credit. So there's currently a $2,400 tax credit for anyone who hires someone that has been incarcerated or has a criminal background. So that is that's huge, because now they're getting a tax break, right? A lot of people don't use it, just like a lot of being CHWs. They're still entities. I work for Walmart Health. They don't even know that they can bill for the work for a CHW. They can get, you know.
Rita asked, what is a bonding letter?
So a bonding letter is like an insurance letter. Okay. It's stating, if you take a chance and an opportunity and give this person an opportunity, should anything go wrong. So if you're missing any money or property loss due to the employee's dishonesty, should anything happen at my employer's office, should I do anything that's out of pocket that I shouldn't, then they're going to cover the cost. If I steal, they're going to replace. If I steal the money, if I walk out with the whole bank drop, they're going to replace it. You're welcome. Obviously, I'll be fired and go back to where I came from, but yeah.
And who issues those letters?
I'm sorry?
Who issues those letters? Letters?
So you get your local Department of Labor.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Okay. Substance abuse. You indicated that the bonding is only worth the paper it's printed on. So what I mean when it's only worth the paper that it's printed on, because I'm sorry, people don't understand what it is, right? I mean, we have to educate the individual that's coming out, get the bonding letter, but because people don't understand it, they're like, okay, you got a bonding letter. So it's only worth the paper it's written on. It's like an order of protection, right? You have an order, you can get an order of protection against someone, but is it really going to be enforced? So we have to educate and empower those coming out of incarceration, the returning citizens, to say, hey, you know what? Don't discriminate me because I have a criminal background, because the state is giving me this bonding letter to say, if anything happens to me, if anything happens while I'm on duty and you're at my employer, that they're going to cover any loss that you may have, tangible or monetary. Okay. All right, substance abuse. So more than 80% of people in jail or prison system having used illicit substances during their lifetime. After release from incarceration, resumption of the substance abuse use carries risks, including probation and parole revocation, increase in mental health conditions, transmission of infectious diseases, and drug overdose. 53% of the people in local jails, 56% of the people in the prison population have met criteria defining as substance abuse. So according to a report by the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Service Administration, SAMHSA, 19% of males on probation ages 19 to 48 have a drug use disorder, and over a quarter had an alcohol use disorder. Less than 20% are given treatment. Besides NA and AA groups that visit once a week, there is no other form of treatment. So if it's so how can we assist in the substance abuse? Believe it or not, they get those substances while they're incarcerated. Every last one you hear on the street, every last one is in this jail system. So both the local jail, the county jail, the state prison, and federal prison, they get, you name it, they got it. Marijuana, crack, fentanyl, pills, you name it. Cocaine, you name it. Alcohol, even alcohol is smuggled in. So there are groups that come in, church affiliated groups that come in that do NA and AA. But what happens when they leave? It says it takes 90 days to change a habit. People would think if you're incarcerated, your habit will change. But really, it's really no different than on the street. And I'm not, I don't know if people are aware of that, but it is. And they get it in through the guards. The guards, they're selling weed in there. It's like their own little community in there. So they make money. It's crazy. So substance use is a real big issue. And it's a big issue when they come out. And again, like you said, they may be returned back to prison or the jail system if they test positive for drugs in their system. But there are things on the street. So we're never really addressing the issue. There are things on the street that when they go in and test, they can be called at 8 o'clock that morning and they have until 7 o'clock that night. They have things that they're out on the street now that can that can give you a false positive. So, that'll read negative. I'm sorry, that will read negative. So, all right. So the final word, our mistakes should not be defined by us, but our learned experience that make us who we are today. Returning citizens face a multitude of barriers when returning to the free world. It's important to connect them to a good support system to be successful. CHWs can assist with linking and supporting entities toward the goal of success for the individual. So anybody have any suggestions on how to link or who to link to, or in their area, how it works, how it doesn't work, what they might face?
Amber, can you hear me?
Yes, I hear you.
This is Wendy Bailey. I had a question. Hi.
Uh-huh.
So would having a plan of care with their parole officer, let's say they come out and they're on parole, would that be a good way to kind of link things together to know what?
Yeah, that would be a great way. So kind of another thing that we're trying to do is maybe possibly create a program in the prison system, right? Get approved for the prison system is one of the things I'm kind of working on. Connecting with the parole officer is great. Anybody that's connected with that individual, if you can get into the prison system and meet with the probation, the counselors, or have meetings with the probation and parole board to say, hey, look, this is what I do. How can I assist with what with your organization, this is the importance of a community health worker. Again, it's that advocating for what a community health worker does and is. I've myself used my life learned experiences, lived experiences, and advocating in different ways, whether it be housing. In the beginning, I talked about my son being murdered. So I've taken on social determinants of health in the community to divert money to go back into the community. I've taken down a gang. It's a lot of different things with regards to crime and criminalization. If you don't have things for the youth to do, if you're bringing in business entities and people are not being employed that live in that community, you talk about community benefits agreements. You get with the probation and parole and say, what is your, the crime rate here? The crime rate here. You got to do your research. The crime rate. What's youth? A lot of drug. There's a lot of possession of marijuana. There's a lot of gun possessions. There's, kids getting kicked out of school for gun and drug possessions. So, how do we divert that? How do we address that? Crime rate going up immensely. So this one, for example, this one particular group that killed my son, they're involved in 12 plus murders in this community, but yet they still walk the street. So how do we divert that? How do we change that? So it's getting with the probation and parole officer, getting their input, anyone who you feel you need to have a seat at the table, faith-based community, school liaisons. If there's like here, they've created in Georgia, they've created a pre-arrest diversion program. So if you get arrested and the police pull up and you have multiple drunken publics, they'll send you to a counselor versus sending you to jail. For your assessment and to get some type of substance abuse or whatever. That's good and all, but it only cures you but so far. How do you get this person sustainable to get to change their mind?
So just kind of a clarification on mine. So I live in a very rural area. It's okay. Southern Indiana. So I don't have a prison that would be near me. It would probably be like an hour or 2 hours away. If I went to the local jails or the work release programs and started there, that might be a good place to start something like that.
Yep, definitely.
Thank you.
Definitely. Anybody else have any questions, suggestions? I think it's very important to connect as early as possible with individuals, people coming out of incarceration, even the youth. The youth crime among youth is rising at an alarming rate. Like I just had a conversation with someone the other day regarding, it's a whole lot different world than like when we were growing up. I was worried about having to get up early to go to practice in the morning. These kids are getting up early to get on the street and do what they do, So I'm a firm believer of, youth holding parents accountable, because I know it takes a village, but it starts at home. And so we just need to change the mindset of everyone. So not only are you assisting those coming out of incarceration, but go to those if you connect with someone, go to their house, just like we do as a CHW. Go to the house, see what's going on, what makes them tick, where are you staying, how are you eating, what's going on. And so you can really address the whole entity as a whole. So I went from homelessness to homeowner. And I've lived in burnout, abandoned buildings. I've seen a lot of trauma. But you don't let it define you. You can make your past, be your foundation for your future. And so, again, all our life lived experiences contribute somewhat to somehow. Like I said, I'm a victim of domestic violence. I had both my legs, my arms, my nose broken, a double barrel shotgun held between my legs. I went to prison because I hit my abuser in the head with a cast iron skillet, which I found out his mother was a midwife for the judge. So it just, that's a whole nother can of worms. So you just got to know your area, know your people, and just do what we do best. Okay, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Rebecca, for any announcements and whatever you got going on, girl.
Well, hello. I just wanted to reach out and let you guys know that we, of course, let's see. I cannot get this to work for me, so I will not be sharing a screen, but that's okay. We are currently in our 6th year of doing our annual retreat and conference. We were invited down to Gulf Shores, Alabama to partner with Mobile County Health Department to do it this year. We are looking at having it finalized with an agenda no later than February 1st. You do not have to be a member of RCHWN to attend. The only requirement is that you are a community health worker and however you see yourself in that role. We do focus a lot on giving you education resources, networking skills, as well as the ability to rest, relax, and find ways, whether it be avoiding burnout, mental health skills, coping, dealing with your everyday lives as community health workers. They're all things that are very important to us. In the chat earlier, I did share a link to our conference and retreat information. It is going to be held April 13th through the 15th in Gulf Shores, Alabama, as I had said. We are doing open enrollment. We have open enrollment for membership to RCHWN every day of the year. We suggest that you share our organization. If you enjoy being a part of it, you join. It's $25 for a year. It includes learning collaboratives every month. As I said, this year we are really celebrating our members and giving them the opportunity to share their stories and what they're passionate about and what they are trained in or are a trainer in or have lived experience in. Every month is going to be different. It's very exciting. It's something different we tried this year that our members had wanted. To become a member, it is $25 for the year. That includes everything I had said, plus the ability to get scholarships to join conference. And also we give out scholarships sometimes for those who would like to go to Unity, which I hear is being held in August in Austin, Texas. So there are great opportunities there. If you know a colleague or you have other community health workers that you're in contact with, we do presentations with RCHWN to spread information. We look at ourselves as being able to collaborate and partner with other state organizations, being that we are a national peer-to-peer CHW network. I did just put some new items in our RCHWN store. We do try to change that up. We're always looking for suggestions. It's a way to show advocacy and have you promote yourselves and give people a way of knowing who you are, what your story is. We also have the national campaign of I Am a CHW, and we do take time if there's an organization who wants to use it to advocate and promote their employees and their place of employment. We do change the free templates that we can add a logo, we can color change them to make them more inclusive for your organization. All of these things can be seen on our website at rchwn.org, or you can reach out to me directly at rebecca@rchwn.org. And I just would like to say, Amber, you did an amazing job. Thank you so much for donating up your time, for being a member, and always being willing to share your story and your lived experiences. I think every time I hear your story, I learn something new about you, and it makes me more in awe of you and what you do. But I truly believe I am in awe of most community health workers. So you guys amaze me. You do things that are amazing, and at the end of the day, you still smile, and I think that is a gift. So I would like to thank everybody for attending. If you want more information or need something, please, by all means, feel free to reach out to me. I do see that Amber shared her contact information, and I will actually share my email again, which is rebecca@rchwn.org. And I think this wraps up our call for now. I can tell you that our February Learning Collaborative is going to be held on the 22nd. It is called CHW Skill Building and Growth, and it is actually being presented by a member of NASHWA as well. And I cannot remember her name off the top of my head. I was going to be more prepared, but it's a Monday on a Wednesday. My kids had a snow day, so grace is needed. But I would like to thank everybody again, and I hope you enjoy the rest of your days.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Amber. You did a great job. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Sheila. Rebecca, before you log off, am I supposed to, I'm doing a part of a round table at the thing or no?
I haven't figured that out yet.
Okay, that's sharing.
We have a meeting on the 31st, and I'm
Okay.
going to have my schedule figured out by the 1st.
Okay, I just wanted, I don't know. I might be in Michigan. I might take a trip to, I just need the months. I'm gonna have to get with you and Andrew where I need to come on up there and visit you all.
Flint,
You know, I
Hey,
like to travel.
You
Flint.
come into Detroit. I live 45 minutes from Detroit.
Oh,
So.
I like Detroit. So okay. Anyway,
Flying
I'm
to
coming.
Flint, and I'm right there.
Okay. I'm gonna come up there and see what's going on. I'm gonna take a little tour. I'm gonna take some PTO time, some self-care
Hey, don't
time.
do it right now. There's a lot of heavy snow and it's really
Yes.
cold.
Yes, it sucks today.
No,
It's not really cold, but there's a lot of snow and it's annoying.
Maybe we need to make